So hello and welcome to Supporting Bachelor Degree Programmes in Morocco to Reduce University Dropout Rates, a roundtable discussion held in partnership between Times Higher Education and Coursera for Campus. My name is Ashton Wenborn and I'm the Special Projects Deputy Editor at THE. I'll be chairing today's session. So if you could just keep your cameras turned on throughout today's discussion, that's really useful. And if you could introduce yourselves and your institutions when we start, that's also great for our panelists and for our audience later on. If you'd like to get my attention or make a point during today's discussion, please go ahead and just jump in, or you can also use the raise hand reaction, which is at the bottom of your screen. As a mode of delivering education developed, universities in Morocco have the opportunity to reduce student attrition by adopting more flexible teaching and learning models powered by digital tools. Institutions must carefully assess how best to offer support via these new modes of delivery. So I'd like to begin today's discussion by asking first, what's causing many bachelor degree students to drop out, and how can institutions help to reduce this? Sharif, perhaps you can start us off today.
Oh, thank you, Ashton. Well, let me introduce myself. My name is Sharif Belfain. I'm Executive Director for Institutional Research and Effectiveness at Al Akhawain University in Ifran, Morocco. We're the only English medium university in the country, and we already have a bachelor's system. So we have a 4-year degree based on the American model. So we did not change to the LMD, when the other public universities changed. We remained with our 4-year bachelor degree. We were part of the reflection process that the Ministry of Higher Education launched when they were starting to think about putting in place bachelor's degrees. And we sort of contributed a lot to the thinking. Now, obviously, we believe in the system. We believe, and I don't know about, I find the need for defining what we mean by bachelor important. To me, it's not what you call it. You can call it bachelor, you can call it licence, you can call it what you want. Because even I studied in Britain also. So I know what the British system uses. They use a bachelor, but it's a 3-year bachelor, and it's not based on the liberal arts system. Whereas America uses a 4-year bachelor mostly. I know that they're thinking now of going to a 3-year degree. I read an article the other day about that. But most of them use a 4-year bachelor degree based on the liberal arts system, which stresses soft skills, which stresses critical thinking, all these general education. And if I want to maybe link this to our topic today, dropouts, I feel students drop out because they don't see the purpose. They lack purpose. And they lack job readiness skills. They see themselves as just, doing something they do not really believe in. They don't see the end. Also,
Sorry, it seems like we've just lost Sharif a little bit there. But
okay, have you lost me?
Oh no, we've got your audio.
Yeah, you lost me. I saw that I got disconnected for a while. I see they lack job readiness skills. They don't see themselves as doing something that will guarantee their future. So they see, well, what's the point? I'm going to study for X years and then remain unemployment. So it's that lack of prospective employment that sort of discourages them from probably continuing. I will stop here for now.
No, that's a really interesting starting point. I'm actually fascinated by what you mentioned about how potentially great the impact of the just simple structure of the degree is. And especially that idea of perhaps that American model maybe allowing more space for soft skill training which then potentially has an impact on employability and job readiness. So would you say that structure is the first thing that institutions should assess when they're looking at improving or minimizing dropout rates and allowing students to leave feeling like they're ready to enter the workforce?
I feel that the Ministry of Higher Education in Morocco should carry out a study on reasons why people drop out, not just numbers. Okay, we know that out of 100 students who register in the first year, fewer than 30 or 34, 35 end up with a degree, which is a huge waste. So why do people drop out? We need to understand what is happening in their minds. Why do they join in the first place? Should everybody join higher education? In Morocco, anybody who has the baccalaureate can join.
Thank you. And Kassem, it would be great to hear if you are having similar conversations at your institution about the structure of degree courses and that reasoning of why students might be dropping out.
Thank you, Ashan. So for our university, everybody knows that there is a big problem with the system of LMD, the program of LMD, and there is how to say it, there is around 47% of students that are drop out and they abandon their studies without having any diploma. And for other currently, for other students, taking the average of 4 to 5 years to obtain their license. So there is many problem in our system, like our system LMG. So the main thing is that we have actually a problem for soft skills. The students have already good things about hard skills, about specialty, but we have more problem in soft skills like, for example, communication, like, for example, the professional things about communication, about initiative, about time work, etc. So the bachelor is a good thing that we think that the bachelor is good thing to work on these skills, and in the structure of bachelor now we have 4 years. In license we have just 3 years. For the bachelor we have 4 years, and the first year is to work on the soft skills, to work on the communication, to work on the language. For our university, we have now 11th bachelor in our university, and this is just like example or like model. So for the next year, we think that we can have more than 11 bachelor for our university. But the very problem now for this system actually is the students doesn't have any ideas about soft skills.
Thank you. Mike, in your experience with Coursera's huge number of learners, do you think that the soft skills is the crux of the dropout issue? Do you think that if we're equipping students with those sorts of skills training, that we're more likely to see perhaps better engagement and then, better outcomes for students?
Well, I hope so. But as Sherif says, I think it's important that we actually look much closer at the reasons why people are dropping out. I think there are some assumptions can be made. I'll just give you a little bit of the history of Coursera's involvement in this, if I may. When the pandemic first hit, we offered Coursera for free to all universities around the world. and about 20,000 Moroccan students took, and quite a large number of universities took advantage of that. So I started having discussions with the universities about what happens afterwards. And it was particularly led through the University Hassan II de Casablanca. And it quickly became apparent that there was suddenly sort of quite an urgent need for a whole series of skills as they were transitioning to this bachelor program. So because we have such a large number of courses, over 5,000 courses, I mean, we specialize in, mostly tech, digital, computer science and business, but also a big range of soft skills. We were able to curate a list of about 100 courses, which were sort of deemed appropriate for the universities moving to this bachelor system. So it includes a list of, and by doing that, by reducing the availability of the courses, we were also able to look at massively reducing the price, and then also be able to scale up to offer something to all Moroccan universities. So we did offer, within that 100, there's a whole series of study skills, soft skills, life skills, civic skills. There's also language skills, which is a key sort of point as well of what they want to introduce more emphasis on in the bachelor program, particularly around English. There's another aspect which is, we call them introductory skills, which in French they call them les modules d'ouverture, which is like having a more general education around specific things, an introduction to psychology and introduction to physics that everybody can do with. And then we also decide, so I mean, Sherif talked about the reason for going to university and employability. So we decided also to add what we call emerging skills. So we've offered a selection of courses on things like artificial intelligence and machine learning, cybersecurity, because actually these are skills that are becoming essential for everybody. Originally you would think, well, they're for engineers, but if you want to be a business leader and you don't understand about cybersecurity and artificial intelligence, then you're not going to make a very good business leader. So our approach is to really broaden the scope of skills that really everybody needs. And a big part of that is, of course, soft skills. So yeah, hopefully that will help with the dropout rates, particularly around the study skills, because the type of skills that you need at university, you need to be able to study in a much more independent way than maybe you have at school. So to give them those skills to be able to do that, I think is really important as well. So yeah, I'm hoping so. But I do agree with Sherif that we need to find out more. And I think the same, Sherif, is true, if I can ask you directly. I think the same system happens in France as well, with anybody who has a baccalaureate can go to university. And I don't know the comparisons exactly, but I also know in France there are large dropout rates as well. I don't know whether you have a comparison between France and Morocco with those statistics.
I do think yes, there is a parallel to be made there. The fact that selectivity is practically non-existent allows anybody to join the university because they have nothing better to do that year. And so they think of the university as a stopgap year. And particularly in Morocco, they get a scholarship. So it's a way to earn a little money. And while you spend 1 year or 2 years, probably not even attending classes, not even taking the exam, but you keep getting your scholarship for 1 year and 2 years until you're expelled. So, I mean, to me, selectivity is one thing. Not that every program should be highly selective, because it's a highly sensitive political issue. Even in France, if you want to do it, there will be a riot. So that's one. Number two, the economic and the business environment isn't the same. There are a lot more opportunities in France than there are in Morocco. And the economy, when the economy creates only 300,000 jobs a year or so, I don't know the exact figure, and the universities graduate 3 times that number, where are we going? So maybe the country needs to rethink its model. So we're training people to become unemployed. And that's what my colleague from Abdul Malik Study mentioned. They graduate and they have nowhere to go. So are we producing unemployed graduates if the economy cannot follow? Are we producing the right profiles for the economy? That's something else, because we have employers who tell us, I can't find the right people to hire. And yet there are people outside Parliament, protesting and asking to be hired by the government as government employees. Obviously, there's a mismatch there. So we need to match the programs we offer to the real needs. I'm not saying only market needs. I don't want to be that utilitarian. I mean, if somebody, like somebody said, if we did that, Descartes would be employed and all these philosophers would be unemployed. So no, it's not market. I'm not saying the market should dictate what the university does, but the university should take into account the needs of the market in developing programs and in training people if we want employable students.
Thank you, Sheriff. And I think it sounds as if perhaps there needs to be a more open dialogue between institutions and industry, those employers. If institutions are producing graduates that don't fit into what employers need them to be, then is there room for a conversation there, kind of more of a partnership between education and industry? And I also wonder if there's space for engagement with students before they actually enroll in universities, because if some of them are kind of coming into higher education, as you mentioned, as something to do, is there a way of engaging them before they get to that point so that once they get to higher education, they're more likely to fully engage in the course? I'm interested to hear what you think on that.
Well, if nobody else wants to take that point, I will probably react to it. And I think can you hear me? Because yes. I freeze from time to time, so I don't know.
Yes, no, your audio is fine. We can hear you.
I'm back.
Please.
I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yes, yeah, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Okay. Sorry. I think our problem originates from a deficient primary and secondary system. The high school graduates do not have the necessary skills to become university students. I know that when you leave high school, you're not necessarily fit to be a university student, but at least you have the basic skills. And okay, I see that someone has joined us. So what happens in primary school and secondary school determines necessarily what happens in university, in higher education.
Yes, and Kasim, are you thinking about those industry partnerships at your institution? Is that something that you see having the potential to reduce those dropout rates and improve student engagement and attainment?
I am totally agree with Dr. Sharif, but for our university, sincerely, I don't have the data because I am not directly engaged in the educational programs. I am engaged in the research, so I work a lot with the PhD students, and I am here just to present our presidents because they have emergency. So I am here to listen for your proposal, how you can promoting and supporting our university in this program bachelors, and for any data, especially data about how our university work for engaging students or for supporting this. I don't have this detail, so I'm so sorry.
No, not a problem at all.
But I am totally agree with the Professor Sharif.
Thank you. Fatima, I see that you've just joined us. Welcome to the discussion today. We're just discussing... Hiya.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Thank you. Fine. Thank you very much.
We were just discussing how institutions can best reduce dropout rates at bachelor level. And a point that Sharif has mentioned is that perhaps institutions aren't equipping students with the skills so that they can graduate and then be job ready. And so we were just wondering if there's room for a dialogue between institutions and industry partners, those employers, to really speak about what skills students need to have and then to better create programs that equip them with those skills. I wonder if that's something that you're considering at the moment at your institution.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good afternoon to everybody here. Professor Belfaqih, nice to see you again. Nice to see you again, Mike and everybody else.
Hi.
Hey, how are you? Yes, so, well, actually there is, I think that's, it's a wild net of complexities that are at play here. I think it's not, you would not say that this is the reason or this is the, or another reason would be the reason. I think that there are multiple reasons to this. Of course, I agree with Professor Belfaqih saying that student readiness to join higher education is one of the factors. How do we prepare and how do we cater for the students, the articulation between high school and and college or university is one of the key issues, I guess. And again, actually there are issues along the value chain, along all the value chain. I mean, with the input and the output, at the moment of the input and the moment of the output, and then during the process. When you look at the input, nothing is done during high school. I would even go further than high school. I would go to middle school and even to primary school to equip students to have critical thinking skills, to be creative, to be innovative, to work in groups, to etc. The being, I don't know if it's part of the culture, being a I don't know, a high context culture probably has something also to have to that, and you know, you respect the hierarchy of professors and whatever comes from the ministry, and then the order in we don't even disorder the arrangement of the classroom. It's a sacred place. It's very rare that students can actually, or professors or teachers can do that. So that's one thing. The second thing is the articulation. Is I hate to say that, but when you think about the educational system as a whole in Morocco, but that's not only Morocco. I think that our system is very much francophone, and I think that the problems are also problems that we get from our traditional partners. Although again, this is not specific to our traditional partners. You might find problems elsewhere. I'm sorry, it's long. I'm aware. You can stop me wherever. Okay.
No, please. It's very interesting.
So then the articulation. It's like small islands. Primary school is an island, and high school is middle school is an island, and high school is an island, and then higher education is still another island. And each of these islands are drifting away from the others without any type of connection between them. That's one. Which means what? Which means that we at the university do not have, although, you know, there are agreements and there are lots of, you know, I would say institutional relations, but the true, real relations between teachers and professors, between educators, between formal education and informal education. All these things are not connected. Between vocational training and what is considered as non-vocational training is another issue. So each is working on their own. The university works on its own, and we need to be able to make incursions into high schools, and high schoolers, I think it's a must today, need to have open days at the university. Of course, we organize, what is that called? The Salon de l'Étudiant. That's the students' fairs. But we organize that every year in April, and you have stands and stalls, and that's all, and it's finished. The university should be open to high schoolers to come and visit and to spend a day and to be able to meet university professors, etc., etc. That's one. Then the output. Again, during the process, the trainings, what we offer, how we teach, everything. It's again on all the value chain of higher education, from curricula design to planning, curricula design, rubrics, everything that is related to evaluation, everything needs to be reshuffled, I feel. And then the output, and then the connection with the outer world, because this is a personal opinion. This is not the VP speaking. This is the professor speaking. I do not believe that the mission of universities is to work for students' employability. I do not think this is a university's mission. It might be one of the missions today, and it seems that it's put as a priority, but I consider that my job, if I join this job as a civil servant, it's because I believe that the mission of university is to train citizens, future citizens, empowered citizens, people who are capable of making choices. That's what I believe. Employment is something that needs to be catered for, of course, at one moment. I think if they have the good training, they will be able to find jobs if they have the adequate training, no matter what the training is, hard and soft skills. All right, now it's not just the university that should do that. We have the industries, we have the economic sector, we have all other stakeholders who should be somehow have their input into what we do, maybe have a say also in what we do. And a best way to do it, I think, is collaborative work where we design what we would like to all of us to do. Now coming to, I'm sorry, this was just the introduction. Coming to our university in 2016, there was a regional survey carried out by the university with the economic stakeholders to see what the region needed actually. And even before, we tried to tailor our research priorities and our training priorities on the needs of the region. It was a needs-based offer. It ended up with a significant growth into professional paths, filières, especially professional bachelor's and professional master's degrees. We also, in 2017, introduced as a mandatory module in all master's degree students, trainings, languages and culture, English and French, culture, and soft skills and soft employment modules to all master's students. So, okay, is this any worse? I believe it is. Have we been able to place our students? Are they all employed? Because this is 5 years. I don't know. Where we need also to work is alumni associations to have a follow-up system for where our students go, what they are doing, etc. All this is very beautiful. It's easier when you are a 5,000 student university. It's way less easy when you are 1 in 10,000 students. So massification is also, I think, one of the obstacles, besides other obstacles, to whatever we'd like to do. And this is where I think networking, real networking, not just institutional, official networking, but real, actual networking between private and semi-private and public universities is important. This is where South-South collaborations are important, because we more or less have the same contexts, and we can cater for specific needs that are related to our own context. And then, of course, North-South partnerships are also important, and we do have many, I think, always not enough, but it's important too. So, well, I should also say that in the past, let's say 3 or 4 years, the signals that were given to public and semi-public and private universities alike from the ministry were all very encouraging into this outlook on how or what higher education should be. And many things started, programs, soft skills in high schools, better connection between higher education and high school. Okay, things are starting maybe to move in the right way with the previous Ministry of Education, and thanks to the job, I think, done also by previous delegate minister to higher education. I would like to believe that this is going to probably be reinforced and improved because the current minister is the previous president of Qadi Iyad University, who actually was president when we initiated all these programs, the career centers, the soft skills, the language, etc. So I would love to think that we're now going to the guest is there, and we're going to go to take premium into what we're doing within these things. Sorry, I'm aware I've taken way more than the time that I should take, but I promise to now stop and not take the floor anymore.
It's a really interesting intervention, really, and I agree with very much of it. I must say, if there's one thing I'm not completely in agreement with, it is about the importance of employability, because unless you have the skills to get a job, then you're not going to be a completely fulfilled citizen either. So I think where we look at it from the advantage where we are at Coursera is that we work both with industries and companies and with universities. And because we have 90 million people that register on the platform, we can really specifically look at businesses and industries and countries and find out what skills they require. And a lot of industries are telling us that students coming to the businesses don't have the skills that they require. Now, some of that is to do with these emerging tech skills, which is why we want to introduce some of these into these programs, because actually they change really, really quickly. They evolve so quickly, and it's quite difficult for universities to find teachers who can teach those subjects, because they know full well that they can earn 4 or 5 times as much working in industry as they can teaching at a university. So we're able to offer those, but I'm really interested in the soft and human, I call them human skills. So soft skills make it sound like they're not really important, but they're really, really crucial. And I've got my own sort of theory around this. So I wondered, I'd share it with you and wondered if you'd like to comment on it. And employers, again, are telling us that students coming into work don't have the right skills. And if you think about it, most of these human skills, collaboration, communication, critical thinking, problem solving, they're about how people work together, right? How do you work in groups together for the benefit of the company or of the team? Now, when you're at university or at school, it's actually all about you. It's about how you perform. You got your head down and you look at your neighbour and you say, stop copying, that's cheating, right? And then you go to work and they say, no, we want you to copy. We want you to work together and look at what each other's doing. So it's a completely different mindset. So to prepare people for that, I think it's really, really crucial. And I just wondered if you also feel, now I know there's more and more new philosophies in education, more and more project work, and I think that's a really good thing. But I wondered if you sort of shared those aspects as well, of that disconnect, a sort of mismatch between the philosophy around learning as an individual pursuit, and then what happens when you get to work, when it's not about you anymore. It's about you and the people you work with and the team and the company.
Fatima, did you want to respond to that?
Yeah, I was wondering if this was a question that was...
It was for anybody.
Okay, meant for me to answer. Well, yes, there is this, I would say, wide gap to bridge between, and it's a question of mindsets also. That's why what I was saying is, let me just make something clear. What I meant when I was saying that, as far as I'm concerned, as a person, I don't feel like it is the mission of the university to produce employees. That's what I meant. What I meant is the mission of the university is to train for the skills, for current skills, whatever they are. Okay, if the skills are agility and innovation, and yes, we should be there, right? But my job is not to tailor or customize. I feel like to customize for specific jobs. I think that we're here to give an array of skills and competences that students should hold and be sure to have, so that they can use them as employees, as researchers, as citizens, as entrepreneurs, whatever. And I agree when you call them human skills. Yes, I feel like much of what we do here is not to prepare the students to these human skills. Again, the survey we carried out with the employers in the region said exactly the same thing. Our students are perfect. They're excellent in hard skills. They know how to do this and how to do that, depending on what the industry is. But when it comes to, yeah, I agree. We do not, the way we prepare them to work, to have these skills, I mean, the tools we give them to navigate between these different new demands, current demands, are not the right tools that they should have. I do agree, yes. But again, I feel like these are exactly, as you said, it's two different mindsets. But what I don't agree with is making the university, holding the university responsible for all this alone. That's where I don't agree.
Yeah.
Because if there is no job readiness amongst students, it means that probably the university is lacking, is not doing something, but also the other stakeholders are not doing something in turn. So this is where we all should see it as something that is ours. That's where I say that it's not the university's role to cater for that on its own. It will never be possible. It will never be possible to do it on its own. It will never be possible to do it with the budgets that we have, especially in public universities. It will never be possible to do it with the human resources that we have. When you compare the ratio student to the student ratio to the professors and mentors to mentors, we can't even afford to have mentors. I'm just talking about teaching ratios. It's not possible to continue doing it. I'm aware of the problems, the budget problems. That's where I believe that partnerships, private and public partnerships on specific areas can be. I mean, we can learn when private universities say we have 100% of job placement for our students. Okay, how come? How does it work? Is it preparedness or is it something else? Is it employees who are more ready who are readier to recruit people who come from private schools than they would be from public schools? Why not, etc. That's where we need to, I think, to put the focus and the work.
Thank you, Fatima. Sorry, Mike, did you want to jump in?
No. I'd be interested in Kasim's opinion on those discussions around, especially around employability and the role of universities, and maybe also the specific situation in Morocco, because if, as Sharif said, or there aren't the jobs, they're just not there. What else can you do as a country? I mean, maybe things like entrepreneurship are going to be more and more important, so that you can create a generation of people who can actually create jobs and create industries as well. I mean, I don't know. It'd be interesting to find out. You know what? I agree. It's definitely not the role of universities on their own. They're a very important part in the machinery, but it needs the whole machine to work together, and it needs to be moving in the same direction. So I'm glad that you're optimistic, Fatima, about the new ministry, the new government, and the ministry. I'm sure you'll get lots of favours as you came from your university. But yeah, I'd be interested in the view of Sharif and Kassem about those issues of where the university fits, what the role is in terms of employability as well.
If I may jump in, I may have to go. The President's office have been calling for the last 10 minutes. I've been ignoring them. So I agree with Mr. Flams, Dr. Flahan, that the university is not a vocational school. It's not a vocational center. It's not up to us to train for specific jobs. But I do take your point, Mike, that we have to equip our students with general skills that will make them employable anywhere. And that's what employers tell us. Employers have told us in the past that, we meet with them a lot. I don't want you to train someone for me. Give me someone who has these skills. And they give us a list, 1, 2, 3, 4. Someone who can talk, someone who can think out of the box, someone who can communicate, someone who can, write well, someone who can take minutes, someone who has good social skills, someone who can work in a group, etc., etc. And I will teach them my job. In 6 months, they will become operational. So, but it is true that we need to train and graduate people with the right skills, the right mindset also. But it is also true that we inherit students who come from a system that, as I said earlier, is deficient. I mean, let's face it. We have students who graduate with the baccalaureate without the proper academic skills, without the proper study skills. Our system has to change. in the elementary and the junior and the senior high school level. The methodology will have to change. It's no longer teacher knows it all, facing a group of ignorant people, and he just instills or she instills knowledge in their head. That's no longer true. So we need a massive retraining of our teacher force at elementary and secondary levels. Of course, even in higher education, we have a lot of teachers who teach their stuff and don't want to know anything about program learning outcomes or university learning outcomes. They say, no, I'm here to teach physics. I teach them physics. I don't care what they do elsewhere. And then the university, I think they're getting there, introducing a general education program, which, because you cannot afford to graduate someone who knows only their area of concentration, because they will be called upon to work with others. And that's what employers are looking for. And, in response to what Dr. Iflahin said, employers prefer to hire from private universities. Employers are blind to that. All they're interested in is, does this person I hire have the right skills? If it so happens that graduates of private universities have better language skills and better, work life skills, then so be it. But it's not because they come from a private. I tell that to our students. We are a public university, but because we are the university that charges fees, people think that they are entitled to a job at the end of the curriculum. And I tell them, no, you don't think that you will apply to a job and when you tell them I come from Al Akhawain University, they will open their arms and say, come in. No, it doesn't work that way. They will weigh you and assess you against a grid that they have on specific skills. And if you fill that grid, you're in. If you don't, you're out. You can be from any university you want. But it just happens that, again, as was mentioned, that we are a small university. We have 3,000 students. The teacher-student ratio is favorable, 19:1. We have, office hours by faculty. We have advising. We have a career office. We have a board of trustees, 26 senior people in the country, most of whom are captains of industry. Many of them are ministers, so they do give us insights and they do advise us, etc. So yes, we do have advantages, but I think other universities should also capitalize on their strengths, look for opportunities to improve, and work with the students who want to work. Because if you have 100,000 students, how many of them really attend regularly and are serious about graduating? Those are the ones I should worry about, because those who are not interested, who are just there to spend time, do not interest me. Although I shouldn't be saying that from a quality assurance point of view. The question is, what does your university do for the average student, not for those who are more interested than others?
Thank you. And Kissan, did you want to also respond to Mike's question?
Okay, thank you. Firstly, I appreciate a lot the intervention and the speech of Professor Fatima Zahra and Professor Belkhair is very interesting. The difficulty or the problem is the high number of students that are inscribed or integrated in the program of social and human studies. So we have around our university around of 80% of students that are in the studies of human and the social studies, and for the technical studies we are around 20%. So when we talk about the partnership relation with the industry and to make a program with industry for our students. So we are focused for this technical program. So we are focused in just 20% of our students, and it is a big problem for us. For example, in our university, we have many partnership with the industry for develop some programs like aquaculture, like and like logistic, like transport, etc. But the percentage of these programs is very few if we compare it with the massification, with the number of students for other fields like human or social studies. So as Professor Fatima Zahra said, the very problem is the high number of students. And in the same time, I am totally agree with the Professor Sharif that the problem is not just in our university, in the new university. The problem is also for the economic matching. So we can have lots of engineers in intelligence artificial or something like this, or in specific things for industry, but the university cannot change the program frequently. So even for 3 or 4 years after, the same students with the same program, they will have the difficulty to find a job, for example, because the massification, the percentage of students each year don't follow, or the economic matching don't follow the number of students degraded for each year. So just one idea to share it with you. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you. We've got about 5 minutes left of today's session, and I think in that time it would be nice to perhaps come to all of our panelists and really return to that original question of how do we reduce university dropout rates? And I think hopefully you've gained some new ideas from your colleagues here today, but I'd like to perhaps go around to each of you with, say, a wish list. If you could ask for one thing to change in the education sector that you think would reduce dropouts, what would it be? Perhaps, Sharif, we can come to you first. Or maybe Fatima in the meantime.
Money.
Perfect answer.
No, I mean, joking apart, of course, money is important, but there are so many things that you could achieve without money. I think that a better coordination, a clear vision and mission, a clear vision, I would say, bottom up and top down, better synergies between the different stakeholders of the educational system throughout across the value chain. And I mean by stakeholders is also the families, the donors. I hope there would be people to donate money for higher education instead of donating money for other things. And I will not say what, because I don't want to make, but anyway, I mean, more donors, better understanding between and articulations between the educational system and the economic system, which is a weak system also, which has to also work on itself, on its potential to innovate and to grow and to expand and to take new markets and change mindset, etc. So lots of things. I mean, but I think there is optimism where although the pyramid of age is now inverting in Morocco, is taking another direction, but I think that our potential, as His Majesty said, is the human capital. I think that it's very important that we make sure and the new model of development focused on that, on education, quality education, but more than quality education, I would say equity in quality education. I think that if we make sure we achieve that in the coming 10 years, although 10 years might seem very long, but I think that 10 years in the history of peoples and countries is nothing. If we achieve that in the coming 10 years, I think we're well set for the moon is ours, I think. I believe.
Thank you, Fatima.
Okay,
Sure.
Ashton, I think, I don't know whether I heard you correctly. You cut there for a while, but I think you asked for one thing and you got 5, right? Of what should change, which is
Well,
good.
the first one would be the most important, Dr. Lefray.
Yeah,
Any.
I understand you. Okay, if I had to have my wish list consisting of 1 point, I would say improve the input, which is improve the students we get at entrance. I think if we get good students, the rest will follow.
Thank you. Another just a small ask there. And Kassem, what's on your wish list?
My wish, as said by Dr. Sharif, if we can have good students in the input, if we can have a good relation with the industry, if we can have also the good partnership with the other university, we can develop some program that will be interesting for our students. But I'm not very optimistic for this moment because the problem is the massification, how to work with the thousands and thousands and thousands of students, because around 80% of students in the law, in the economy, in the literature, in etc. So how to work with this category of students, and after the university they will find some job or do something for their life.
Thank you. And Mike, did you want to also ask for something?
Well, I was going to give my one thing, if I may. So we haven't talked about it yet, really, but I think the use of technology and online learning and how that is blended with face-to-face learning can actually be a solution to a lot of the issues. So Fatima, I noticed your eyes raised to the heavens when Sharif talked about a 19-to-1 ratio, because that's like an absolute dream, right? But I think if you can, the more you can integrate online learning, the more you can sort of increase the capacity and have potentially have smaller class sizes. So rather than one teacher giving a lecture to 200 students, if you can do that lecture part online through an integrated and active learning methodology, then you can free up the teacher time to maybe have more interesting, smaller discussions and maybe be able to address the students' problems on an individual level, on a personalized level. So I think, I do think that the use of technology in a smart way can be, a real benefit to learning, and that's the direction that we're all going in.
Thank you very much, Mike. That actually brings us to the end of today's session. So I'd just like to thank all of our panelists for joining us today and sharing all of your insights. We certainly hope to speak with you again soon. Please do get in contact if you want to follow up on anything that we've spoken about today. But for now, I'll just say again, thank you so much for joining us, and goodbye.